Seen it all in the game. The match is then stopped by Brazilian authorities after 7 minutes. This was an extraordinary series of events. Brazil taking on Argentina in CONMEBOL qualifying. Of course, this was the big game of the day, a game that eventually was abandoned. Thank goodness Gab Marcotti is here to try and tell us exactly what happened. Gab?
Okay, so, wow. All right, so there's 4 Argentine players who, Emi Buendia, Emi Martinez, Romero, and Lo Celso, who, as you know, play their football in the United Kingdom for Tottenham and Aston Villa, respectively. Brazil have a rule in place where just as Brazil is on United Kingdom's red list, United Kingdom is on Brazil's red list. And that means that anybody entering the country has to quarantine for 10 days if they've been in this case, the United Kingdom, over the previous 2 weeks. Now, these 4 players, as they came in, apparently they didn't put the fact that they had been in the United Kingdom on there, or whoever filled out their forms for them, didn't put them in the forms at the airport. The Brazilian authorities noticed this. It took them a couple of days because they'd been there for 3 days. There's different reports about how hard they tried or whether they were able to go and approach them and either deport them or get them to quarantine. Eventually, they said they could only get to them at the stadium. Once they were at the stadium, they had difficulty getting into the dressing room because it was locked. And so eventually, aided by police, they came on the pitch, stopped the match. There was some toing and froing. And eventually, Argentina said, okay, never mind this. We're leaving, and they left the stadium. Brazil stuck around. They had a kickabout for the delight of the fans who were in the ground. Now, I should point out, I know I'm going to preempt your next question. How did this come to pass? Because the rules were in place. Now, Argentina, the Argentine Football Association, arguing that actually those protocols weren't valid. That they had other protocols that they had agreed, the same ones that they applied at the Copa America, because they were traveling internationally. They were traveling in a bubble. And so those protocols didn't apply. Again, according to reports, both CONMEBOL and also the Brazilian federal government said, yes, the protocols apply, which means, the quarantine protocols do not apply. They're free to play. However, the Brazil health authorities, apparently they trump everybody here because they said, and the police agreed with them. And so the match had to be stopped. There's a lot of accusations and recriminations flying back and forth now, as you can imagine.
And will Brazil be awarded the win then, Gam?
That's a great question. CONMEBOL were very quick to say, "Oh, this isn't our responsibility. FIFA will sort this out because this is World Cup qualifying." It is a real hornet's nest. Now, it's a really difficult one because, again, I am speculating here. Speculation warning. I can't imagine people like Buendia and Martinez and Romero would have intentionally lied on their forms and thought, nobody knows who we are because we play for Villa and Spurs, so we'll get away with it. Nobody's going to realize that, we were actually in England playing in Premier League matches. So I think Argentina would be able to argue in good faith, we're not knowingly violating any protocols. These protocols which were put in place and which, of course, applied for the Copa America should apply here. If the reporting we heard that's correct, both the Brazilian FA and CONMEBOL and the Brazilian federal government said, no, go ahead, play the game. These protocols do not apply to you. That's my initial impressions. You can't really punish them. I don't know that you can punish the Brazilian FA because ultimately they were there, they're ready to play. It's got nothing to do with them. The question is the Brazilian health authorities, do they have the ultimate say in Brazil? Does it purely become a political matter? I genuinely don't know the answer to that question. It does seem to me, though, that neither of these 2 sets of players were particularly at fault here. So I don't know if you try to replay this game in what is already a hyper-congested calendar. I don't know if that's a fair way to do it. But clearly, you have to find some solution that's fair as can be.